For question number 1, Michelle has 15 3/4 cups of flour in a container. She uses 2 1/4 cups of flour to make a loaf of bread. How much flour does Michelle have left in the container? The first thing that we'll need to do is take the 15 3/4 and subtract the 2 1/4. We want to make sure that we have a common denominator, which is 4, and now we can subtract. We can subtract the two fraction values, 3 minus 1, which leaves us with 2/4, and then we could subtract the two whole numbers, 15 minus 2 is 13. So we have 13 2/4 or 13 1/2, which would be our reduced fraction. For question 2, Michelle bought 5 packs of crayons for $13.75. What is the cost of a pack of crayons in dollars if all the packs cost the same? So we're going to take the $13.75 and we're going to divide by 5. And once we do that, we end up with $2.75 per pack. For question number 3, which number line model represents the sum of 1.25 plus a negative 0.75? Make sure you start from the origin, and then you are either going to move left or right. Well, in order to solve this problem, we know that 1.25 would be subtracted by the 0.75, and that leaves us with 0.50. So now in this case, when I'm looking over at each answer choice, I notice that in part A, it starts at 0 and it goes to 1, and the arrow looks like it's slightly over the 1, but then it continues going on the top arrow. So since it's continuing and it's not going back because we notice it's subtraction, A is not the possible answer. B also cannot be the possible answer because it starts off at 0 and then it goes to the left, meaning that it's being subtracted right away. And 1.25 is not being subtracted, it's a positive, so it's increasing. Now for letter C, that is a strong possibility of being our answer because we know it goes from 0 to 1, which is slightly over 1, and then it's going to go back by subtracting. And then again, for part D, the only reason why this cannot be the answer is because when it's going towards the right, it's not going over 1, and we know that you're adding on the 1.25 at the beginning, and since this is not, then our only answer choice is C. For question 4, enter the decimal equivalent of 9/12. Now, what we would do here is make sure that we solve by dividing. So we know that the top number goes in the house and the bottom number goes out. So 9 divided by 12, we add our decimal, 2 zeros, bring up our decimal. 12 goes into 9 0 times, 12 goes into 90. We know about 7 times, and that subtracts 84, and we're left with 6. And then 12 goes into 65 times, so we end up with 0.75. Now for question number 5, is the given expression equal to 8 parentheses 2.25 minus 4.25 times b? Select yes or no for each expression. You will have to use distributive property to figure out each possible solution. So the first thing I would do is distribute the 8 to the 2.25, and I end up with 18. And then I'm going to multiply the 8 times the negative 4.25b. So I end up with negative 34b. So out of all my answer choices, I can look at the first one, negative 34b plus 18. Well, that is true to this because we have a negative 34b and a positive 18, so that is true. Now 34b minus 18, that is not true because 18 is positive. And lastly, negative 18b plus 18, that is also false. It's not true because when we multiplied 8 times the negative 4.25, we ended up with negative 34. In number 6, Sarah poured 3/4 of the juice from a 2-liter bottle while serving guests at a party. How much juice in liters is still left in the bottle? Now, in order to solve this problem, we're going to take 3/4 and we're going to multiply it by the 2 liters. So we put 2 over 1, then we can cross cancel the 2 and the 4, leaves us with 1 and 2. So our final result is 3/2 or 1 1/2. For question 7, it says to select all the expressions that show the distance between points A and B. Now, to count, to make sure, we know that the distance from A to B, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for the first one, we have 8 minus 1, and that is 7, so that is a true statement because they're asking us for the distance. Negative 1 minus negative 8 would be negative 1 plus 8, and that would also get us 7. And then we have negative 8 plus negative 1. Well, they're both negative, so you're actually adding an extra negative. That'd be negative 9, so that's not true. And then the absolute value of negative 8, which is 8, minus the absolute value of negative 1, which is 1, so it's 8 minus 1, which is 7. So that is also true. Now for question 8, it says enter the value of 5/6 plus negative 4/9 minus a negative 2. Now, to answer our question, we need to first get a common denominator. So 5/6 minus 4/9, we're going to multiply by 3 and by 2. We end up with 15 over 18 minus 8 over 18. And we realize 15 minus 8, we get 7 over 18. Then we're going to add it to the number 2. So that would leave us with 2 and 7/18.